Australia just on 11 years ago to follow a childhood dream to ride a motorcycle around Latin America, pretty much like Che Guevara, who was a bit of a hero of mine. I started off in Buenos Aires, where I lived for about 8 months. While I was in Buenos Aires, I traveled throughout Brasilia, Uruguay, Paraguay, southern parts of Bolivia, northern reaches of Argentina, eventually making my way all the way down to the bottom of Argentina to Ushuaia. Coming up through Patagonia, I found a little village called El Bolson, which is not far from Bariloche. I lived in El Bolson for about 8 months. And just before winter, I got out before the snows and the cold. I then came through Chile into Peru, did Machu Picchu, came to Bolivia. I went down Death Road as a tourist. This is 8 years ago, and was offered a job to be a mountain bike guide with Gravity. At the time, it wasn't on my scope to become a mountain bike guide, but after traveling around Bolivia for a while, I also got a motorcycle and rode around Bolivia for a long time, for a while. I went back to Gravity and said, how about that job? Thinking I could do it for about maybe 8 or 9 months and then move on. I fell in love with guiding, fell in love with Bolivia. So I was guiding with Gravity for almost 5 years. I hold the record as the gringo to have done Death Road more than any other gringo. And I'm also the oldest guide to have ever worked on Death Road. I also was a motorcycle guide here for 2 years. I had a horrible motorcycle accident in Oruro in October of 2016, which put me into hospital here for 6 weeks and eventually had to go back to Australia for reconstructive surgery. I came back in May of 2017, put all my life energy into building a cafe called Higher Ground here in Calle Torija. It was going very, very well up until the elections of October, which turned everything into chaos. And obviously COVID has created the next big issue for me. So we opened up, we reopened the cafe up last week. We've changed our menu and given it a lot more of a Bolivian fare, whereas beforehand it was extremely touristy, aimed at the gringos. And now I'm making plans to go back to Australia. Sadly, this has been a major part of my life here in Latin America, and I've grown a huge attachment to Bolivia. My whole experience here has fed my soul in ways I never thought possible. And I'm certainly not the person I was when I left Australia, and I'm going back to Australia a completely different person. My whole view of world, of life, of living is completely different. And I'm blessed to have had this experience. But now there's a new chapter, sadly, and moving on to a new part of my world for the future. Yes. Any questions? I'm open to it.
All right, guys, there you go. Quite the story from Mark. Yeah.
Yeah, I got a question, Mark. Mark,
Yes.
nice to meet you. I'm Martin. Martin from Bolivia. Hey, you got all Europe and South America in your hands.
Yes,
so it's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry to hear you had an accident in Oruro, Bolivia. What happened? You broken your leg?
I was leading a tour group. In the tour group, we had 8 motorcycles, and we had 2 4-wheel drives. So I was leading. I was on the front on my motorcycle. We were just about to leave Oruro when a minivan came straight out in front of me. I had no chance to stop or anything, and I hit the side of the minivan, and I smashed up the right side of my body. So my right leg was broken in 8 places. My left arm was broken in 6 places. The bones
Wow.
in my bones in my left arm came out through my hand, and my right arm was paralyzed. So it's called what is called a brachial plexus injury, where I had a dislocation in the shoulder and it tore the nerves from the spine. So I don't have any. I went back for surgery back to Australia for surgery. And they've been able to reconnect the nerves, but I've got some movement back. It's going to take a long time before my arm is fully repaired. But I'm lucky to be alive, and I'm very blessed to have that.
Yeah, you're a lucky guy. You're alive.
Yeah, yeah. Mm.
Yeah. I have a question for you, Mark.
Yeah.
I know Australia is a very expensive country.
Yes, very expensive.
Yes. What is the minimum wage in Australia?
The minimum wage is about $25 per hour, and I know by Bolivian standards that's quite high. But you have to factor in the cost of living, and the cost of living in Australia is excessive. So your rent, your health insurance, you know, a grocery, you know, it's nothing to spend, you know, $1,000 a week on groceries for a
Wow.
family. So, and so, and put this into perspective against the American dollar, currently about 75 cents buys one Australian dollar. So, it gives you an indication. So it's not as so the value of the Australian dollar is about 25% less than what the American dollar is.
Okay, I understand, Mark. Especially the public transport is very expensive too.
Public
Well,
transport is yeah, you can spend somewhere between $20 to $50 a week on public.
wow.
Yeah, a week on public transport. So that's using buses and trains. In some cases, depending on how far you go, you can spend $100 a week.
Yeah, because it's a longer distance to travel
Yeah.
and
So with the cities like Melbourne and Sydney, because of property values are so expensive in the centre areas, people are living in the outer suburbs. And sometimes you can travel for an hour to an hour and a half just to get to work of a morning by public transport. So yeah, it is, as I say, it is an expensive place to live, but not, and it's similar to New York or London.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Marcus.
Okay. Adam, I know you've got plans to travel around the world. Is Australia somewhere where you'd like to visit, get to know?
Sometime. First of all, hi Marcus.
Hey, Adan, how are you, buddy? You good?
I'm okay.
Good.
Okay. First of all,
Whoa. Do you guys know each other?
Of course
yes.
we do.
Okay. Ah.
Okay.
Good.
Okay. First of all, I want one day travel visit Australia, but no, not now. I am in other business to travel other country. But it's interesting to know now the real history about my friend Marcus. But when I was working with Marcus, I know he has an accident, but I know why and I know when. But just I know. But it's a sad story. Sorry, Marcus. But
no, it's all good.
okay, no problem. But okay, but maybe I can sorry. Maybe I can tell you some history. Well, sorry, maybe you can tell me some histories about the Australia, about the I don't know, maybe which place do you prefer to recommend me to
Okay.
visit, or I don't know.
Okay. Australia is a very big country. It's not as big as Brazil. Brazil is actually just like it's almost the same size as Brazil. But also Australia is about the same size as the United States. To put it into perspective, it has on the eastern seaboard. 85% of the country is actually desert, very, very dry. The eastern seaboard, where you have, which extends from Queensland down to Victoria, approximately 3,500 kilometres from the north coast to the south coast, and they call it the green belt. So the edge of the eastern seaboard is the greenest area. In Queensland, they have the tropical rainforests, the Daintree. The Daintree is the oldest rainforest ecosystem in the world. So it predates the jungles here in Latin America. The difference in the cities.
Excuse me, Mark. What's the rainforest called again?
The Daintree.
Daintree.
Daintree. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
The cities. Sydney is known as is probably the most picturesque of the cities. It has the harbour. It is also the most expensive city to live and visit. But it has the Opera House. It has the Sydney Harbour Bridge, which are two icons. And of course, the Sydney Harbour, which is known for its yachting. It's a very, very large. It's a very large harbour. And then it's known. It was once known for its parties. So, if anyone knows of Mardi Gras, which is the gay festival in, I think it's March, is one of the largest parties within Australia. In Melbourne is known as the elegant old lady. It's the most cosmopolitan city. It's where the arts are. We get a lot of opera. It has some of the amazing sporting facilities. And in fact, it has some of the best sporting facilities in the world. It boasts a picturesque river that runs through it. And if you know of the platypus, which is a weird creature that is actually a mammal that lays eggs and has a bill like a duck and swims. Anyway, it's prolific in the Yarra River within the city. The climate, the northern parts where Brisbane is, it's very, very warm. It's tropical. Sydney is quite moderate in its temperatures. Melbourne gets very hot during summer, and very, very cold and can snow during winter. So they're the three extremes. And the three popular cities are Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne. They're all on the eastern seaboard.
Thanks, Marcus.
Okay, thanks, Adam. All right, let's go to Brian. Brian, you're the music guy. You're a musician. Maybe you want to know about famous Australian bands. We can see records in your background. Ask Mark anything.
Okay.
What's the worst Australian group?
Okay, thanks, sir. Hi, Mark. My name's Brian. From Bolivia too. Well, my question. I have a question, but I'm not sure. Australia is a character from Australia is the animal. I don't know how's the name in Spanish is canguro, but
Kangaroo.
Kangaroo.
Yeah.
Kangaroo.
Kangaroo. Thank you. Why is their famous animal, or why is the topic about it?
Okay. There is a lot of well, as you would probably aware, Australia is the only country that actually has these species, and there are a lot of related. The largest kangaroo is called the big grey, and it can stand about almost 7 feet to what was known to the wallaby, which is about the size of a small dog. The kangaroo is quite famous, mainly because of what it looks like. They're extremely agile. They can jump quite long and high distances, and they're quite fast when they're actually in full bound. You would know that they have a joey, which is a baby kangaroo. Somehow, there's an island off Australia called Kangaroo Island, and the population of kangaroos is consistent. It never gets past a certain number, and it never gets below a certain number. And the kangaroos know that the island can only sustain this amount of the population. So somehow they know when when an animal dies, another one is born. And a joey, when it's born, it makes its way into the parent's pouch, and it finds the teat of the mother and sucks on it. It can wait in gestation period for up to 2 years. And it will wait for a period for when it's ready to be born. And when it's ready to be born, it will actually start to grow within the mother's pouch and turn into a joey to make sure that the population, and we don't know how that is possible. But they're a very unique creature. There's a lot of kangaroos. They cull them. So if there's a season when the numbers get too high, in the mainland Australia, there's a lot of cattle stations and sheep stations where the populations of the sheep and also the cattle are extremely high. And when the kangaroo population gets too high, they compete against the cattle and also the sheep. So farmers go out and actually cull and kill the kangaroos to reduce their populations. And then the meat of the kangaroo is a delicacy. It's full of protein and it's very lean in fat, and it's not like llama. It's a bit different, but it can be extremely tough or difficult to eat unless it's cooked the right way. And I think I answered your question, but the reason why they're so popular, I don't know. I think it's just because they're so unique. There's nothing like it anywhere else in the world.
Okay, Mark, just a question. Yeah, sorry, Brian.
No worries.
Okay, continue, Brian. I'll ask the question after you.
Oh, okay, that's interesting, Mark. Thank you. Well, I need a passport to travel to Australia.
It's difficult at the moment because of COVID-19. There is no international tourists coming into Australia at the moment. When the borders do open up, to get into Australia, it's very difficult for countries like Bolivia to enter unless they have, like Brazil, we put restrictions on countries in South America, in Latin America. And the reason is because we have what is known as overstays. Brazilians have a habit of coming to Australia and not leaving. So the immigration department makes it very difficult for people to come in unless they can actually prove that they aren't going to be a burden on society. And they do everything they can to ensure that if you come in here, that you will go home. So you have to show that you have a business here, or you have a family member that you're tied to, and not coming to just to come to Australia and overstay. Australia has a huge appeal to international, I guess they're called refugees, or people trying to find another country to move to. And so Australia does a lot to protect its borders, and they make it very, very difficult for people to come in and stay. So if you want to come to Australia, you need to make sure you've got plenty of money in your bank, and show that you are actually going to return and not overstay your visa.
And Mark, I think maybe this applies to everyone as well, Andrea, Brian, and the younger guys. What about just solely going to universities as a Bolivian? Could Brian
yes.
apply to Australian University, for example?
The universities, the best way for there are you can make application for what they call it. The Australian universities are very expensive. They're not easy to get into. But if you wanted to apply, what's the word I'm looking for? Where you can get a scholarship. If you're very good in a particular field, you can get a scholarship, or if you can show that you're actually taking back something from Australia to work within your country, you might be able to get a scholarship. So the good idea is to apply to the universities, see what they're offering, and it really depends on your skill sets, like your English, your abilities, your academic skills, your knowledge, and just how smart you are. And if you can show that you can fulfill a certain criteria, yes, there are scholarships available to people from around the world.
Okay, excellent. My question was, okay, because you've eaten all three. Can you rank in order kangaroo, alpaca, llama meat? What's the ranking?
Kangaroo by far.
You had to say that.
And the reason is that I've had some really good kangaroos from amazing restaurants. I've had some good alpaca in Lima. I think here in Bolivia they tend to overcook the meat and make it very. It's not delicate. The more gamey a meat, it needs to be cooked in a way to to make it more delicate and more, so it's easier and softer to eat. But I think here, the llama and alpaca that I've eaten, it tends to be overcooked and difficult to eat.
Okay, let's say you're cooking all three yourself.
All right.
Cooking for you. Well, what's the ranking? Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, easy. That's kangaroo, llama, alpaca.
Kangaroo, llama, alpaca. Okay. Excellent. All right. Okay, Andrea. Anything? What do you want to know about Australia, or about the Higher Ground Cafe, or Mark's experiences? Over to you.
I have a question for him. Could you explain me the meaning of your flag?
Yes, absolutely. So on the top left-hand side, you'll see the Union Jack, and the Union Jack is the British flag. Australia was, there's some contention here, but Australia was first settled by the British in 1777, and the first fleet arrived with what is known as convicts. So if you were caught stealing bread and things like that, you were put into prison, and they colonized Australia through the convicts. So the first flag that was ever flown on Australian lands was actually the Union Jack, which is the British flag. Before the British arrived, the Dutch actually were the first people to discover Australia. They arrived on the western side of Australia, where I mentioned before, 85% of the country is desert, and they saw just barren land. They left and went on to discover the Indonesia. So the Dutch for the first people who actually go and discover the Asian Pacific region. When the over time with the British, over time the flag was further developed. So the Southern Cross, which appears on the right-hand side, is a navigational tool used by sailors, and so they used that was put on the right-hand side because it basically is the deep south of it's the lowest it's the lowest continent on the planet. And on the right-hand side, underneath the Union Jack, is a star which has 7 points, which represents the seven states and territories. In Australia, we have 2 territories: the Northern Territory, which sits between Western Australia and Queensland. Western Australia is the most western state. Underneath the Northern Territory is South Australia. Then you have Victoria. Above Victoria is New South Wales, and above New South Wales is Queensland. And in the middle of New South Wales is a territory called the Australia's Capital Territory. What's unique about that is that when we were going into federation in 1901, they couldn't decide which city would become the capital city, whether it would be Melbourne or Sydney. So they decided they would put a city halfway between Sydney and Melbourne, and they called it Canberra. And they put a territory around Canberra called ACT, or the Australian Capital Territory. So Canberra is the capital of Australia, and it sits inland exactly halfway between Melbourne and Sydney. I hope that explains your question in regards to the flag, but it's a bit of it, it gives you a great concise description of what the flag means.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Good question, Andrea. Good question. Okay. We've got Linda in the house. And Gina. All right, Ximena, anything you want to know about Australia, the land down under? Any famous places, national parks, Uhuru, etc., etc.?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a question for Mark. How about the Tasmanian devil? I heard that it's an animal from Australia.
Yes.
That's right, or the...
That's correct. If you remember the Looney Tunes cartoons, the spinning,
yes.
the spinning devil is actually a Tasmanian devil. It's nothing like what Looney Tunes descriptions, but it is a small animal, and quite vicious. They have a huge head and a very, very small body.
There you go, guys. I've just shared it on screen. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, yeah. So they can actually chew through bones. They are a vicious little animal, and they only appear in Tasmania. That's the only place on the planet. And Tasmania is actually, I forgot to mention Tasmania, which a lot of us do actually. So Tasmania sits below Victoria, and as you can see, their teeth. Sadly, they're dying out. They've got there's a disease that is getting into them right now. They're trying to do everything they can to preserve them, but they are, they're moving towards the extinction point. So there are zoos and societies that are doing everything they can to protect them and keep them alive.
Mark, a question: can you eat a Tasmanian devil?
You could.
Is it edible?
It's like if you were hungry enough, I guess. But no,
right.
They're not. They're a protected species.
Yes.
And I don't imagine them being very tasty.
But kangaroo is delicious.
Kangaroo is delicious. Yes.
Oh, no. It's
a animal. Sorry.
Yeah, it's brand new for me. I don't know kangaroo is food.
We're the
Yes.
Australia is the only country in the world that eats its national emblem.
Wow. Oh, good name.
Well, it helps with the circle of life, Mark. Come
That's
on.
exactly right.
Yeah. Excellent. All right, Rosario, any questions for Mark? Anything about Australia you'd love to know? Okay, we'll come back to Rosario. Oh, we'll come back. Linda, hello, Linda. We have Mark from Australia. Anything you want to know about the country Australia, Linda?
Hi, Darren. Hi,
Hey,
everyone.
Linda, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. The language from Australia is only English or the other language?
No, it's it is, yeah, the only spoken language is Australia, is well, sorry, is English. We do have you know, we have, Australia is quite multicultural, and it has pockets of like, it has the largest Greek population outside of Athens. It has very large Chinese and Asian communities, but mostly people speak English. Very rarely do you find, you know, you will find people speaking their native languages, but it's not a very huge percentage. All TV programs, all music, all radio is all English.
Oh, cool.
And Mark, question.
Okay.
Just to follow up on Linda's question, could you briefly talk about the indigenous people, the Aborigines of Australia?
Yes.
Yeah,
easily. I have a bit of a passion for the Aboriginal communities. It's the oldest, the oldest people on the planet. They date back some 60,000 years, long before most other cultures. So it's possible that when before white settlement began, there were up to 3 million, maybe 4 million our indigenous Aboriginals living within Australia. They'll be lucky to be 250,000 of them now, which is sad, because there was a beautiful culture. They have what is known as dream time, which explains everything that they have. And they live very, very close to what you would call, or what we call here in Bolivia, Mother Earth. They knew how to hunt. They didn't destroy the land. They were nomads. They would move from area to area, and they had their own traditions. And they lived humbly within Australia. Sadly, when the English arrived, they saw them as animals, and they did a lot to cull their populations, which is again kill. They killed them.
Wow.
This is what they call a corroboree. So it's like a community coming together for dance. When the British, they tried to assimilate. So you see one of the guys there, which is a slightly browner color rather than the darker skin. So he's the tallest one in there. He would be a what we call a half caste. So he has comes from a white and also a Aboriginal background. There's what is called the stolen generation. So they stole children from Aboriginal families and communities, and they put them into white communities in a hope to assimilate. And it didn't work very well. In fact, it came to a stage where these people had no history. They had no belonging to either the Aboriginal community, and no belonging to the white European communities. So what has been done to the Aboriginals is quite scary. If you want to talk about the largest genocide on the planet, it's probably what Australia has done to its Aboriginal communities. And right now, as I said, there's probably about 250,000 Aboriginals left. A lot of their culture has disappeared. There's a lot of work now to try and acknowledge that. It was only recently, probably around about 5 years ago, that the government of the day did a public apology for all the atrocities they ever did to the Aboriginal communities. And sadly, there's a lot of Australians who still don't acknowledge that what we did to them was anything bad. They say, you know, they pass it off as, well, this is progress. I don't see it as progress. I see it as we can't heal from our past unless we have the ability to actually understand and agree to our past. So there's a lot of pain in Australia because of what we've done to these communities.
Mark, I have a question for you. Would you mind explaining the word atrocities?
Atrocity. An atrocity.
Yes, please.
Is the situation. How do I best explain this? An atrocity is a it's bad. Can you pull up the meaning for me, please?
Okay.
Darryl, it's an atrocity.
Well, Darryl, can you do that, please?
I will do.
Yeah. An atrocity. An example of an atrocity is where like what Hitler did to the Jews. That was an atrocity.
It's a major violation of human rights, kind of.
Yes. Yeah. Extremely wicked, cruel act. Typically one involving physical violence or injury. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. An example in Bolivia will be what happened in 2005, 2006, the Civil War. That would be an atrocity as well, an example of an atrocity in the country.
Yeah, in Spanish is atrocidades. Sounds like the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be against it can be an atrocity against the environment is like the burning of the jungles. That's an atrocity. So it doesn't have to be about people.
Definitely. Mark, just one more follow up on the Aboriginal culture. Are there any famous festivals that Australia embraces? Like what's the biggest Aboriginal festival or cultural day that the whole country stops and embraces?
No, there isn't. Sadly, there isn't. As I said, another atrocity is the fact that we've lost a lot of their traditions because of what has been done. So there isn't even an Aboriginal Day. Our Australia Day is recognised as the day we founded Australia, and you can imagine what that does to our brothers and sisters who are Aboriginal in Australia. It's quite a violent past for them, and every year we celebrate Australia Day on the 26th of January, which is a day that marks the beginning of an end to a culture for our Aboriginals. So sadly, there isn't a particular day. There is they do come together quite regularly and do their corroborees, where they'll play the didgeridoo and things like that. But that's really just community based. And you might be somewhere where you hear about it and go and see it, and it's actually quite spectacular and listening to how they sing and dance. But sadly, there isn't anything like that where you can imagine a day that you can go and see an Aboriginal festival. No.
Okay, great. Hey, Guinea, Peru. Arriba, Peru. Guinea, okay. So we've got Mark from Australia. Anything you want to know about Australia? And how are things in Peru today?
It's okay. I want to know about. I want to ask what he loved about Australia. Maybe explain me why. I don't know.
So Mark,
What
well,
that hear me? What I would you like to ask what the best from your country, from your Australia for you? Or what do you love?
okay, what's a good question, Kira. So, Mark, so what do you love about Australia? What's Australia exported to the world?
Kangaroos.
Let's see. What do I think is the greatest export of Australia? I think our greatest export is our music and our arts.
Oh, Mark, I'm gonna put music. You sure?
All right.
Yeah, music.
No, you're talking about our export. We're not talking about the UK's.
Yeah, Kylie and Jason. I mean, Kylie and Jason. No.
Well, okay. In excess. AC/DC, Cold Chisel.
AC/DC.
AC/DC
Wow.
are Australian.
Wow. Yeah.
The Bee Gees.
Total brand new for me.
Olivia Newton-John. Yeah, Olivia Newton-John. Who are some of the actors? Who plays Thor?
Russell Crowe. Yeah. Russell.
No, Thor. Mighty Thor. Out of the Avengers.
What's his name? I know the women love him. Come on, ladies in the group. What's his name?
Yeah,
Chris something?
Chris. Yeah. I should know.
Nicole
Kidman.
Okay.
Hugh Jackman.
Wolverine.
There's been our creative is pretty good. So you talk like I don't know about today about some of our music, but I know that in the past our music has been quite good, and also our theatre, like our movies, like Muriel's Wedding, Mad Max.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, Mark, for the group, what Australian film would you recommend for the guys to watch? Something that showcases Australia.
Mad Max?
There's a movie
not Mad Max. Don't say Chopper's one.
There's a great movie called Australia. It's written by it stars Hugh Jackman and Nicole Kidman, and it's an epic. It really is an epic. It's well done, and it gives a great cross section to the landscapes, and also it's done through a period of the Second World. A story is told through the Second World War, and the invasion of Australia by the Japanese. So. That is a good one. So it's Australia.
Australia, yeah.
Would you recommend Chopper, Mark? Would you recommend Chopper to the group?
What is it?
Chopper.
I've never seen it.
It stars, what's his face?
Chopper Reed. Chopper.
Yeah.
Chopper Reed. Oh yes.
Chopper Reed,
yeah. I've met Chopper Reed a few times. He lived next door to a friend of mine in Melbourne, and so Chopper is a bit of a character. He cut his ears off in prison, and yeah, interesting character. But yeah, Chopper would be an interesting one to watch. But it's quite a dark movie. I don't know. I have to think. It's been a long time since I've seen an Australian movie. Let me think about this. Any other questions while you're waiting?
Okay, yeah, great. Bridget, anything? I don't know. Have you been to Australia, Bridget? Anything you'd like to ask Mark?
Can you repeat the question again?
Anything you like to know about Australia? you want to ask Mark about his life in La Paz, Bolivia, Australia, around South America. Has Mark been to Venezuela? For example.
Oh yeah, that's an interesting question, but I don't know. Have you been in Venezuela already?
Yes, I have.
Oh my
Yes.
God, where?
Correct. I went to Caracas.
Okay.
And I was in in Guyana, and I went across to Angel Falls.
Diana, what? What's the name again?
I was in the Guyanas, so I was on the north. I was on the. You've got the French Guyana.
Yeah. I know.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, oh my God. Yes, I know for sure. Yeah, I know.
What happened, Bridget?
It was like, oh my God, what's that?
You forget your country.
Yes. No, but it's like, it's like when you say Venezuela, I just like get the names in Venezuela, like Guayana, and like Guayana. No.
Guyana.
Yes.
So I've been from the I went across from that side across into the Angel Falls to see the jungles, and it was amazing. Also Caracas. I didn't get across to the western side of Colombia at the time. They said it was quite dangerous. When I was in the Guyanas, we were heading south towards Brazil, and we heard of a mining project, a gold mining project that had been raided, and everybody on the mining project had been killed as people had come across the borders to steal all the gold. So we didn't go any further. We came back.
Yes, I know. Sometimes, it can be really dangerous, even for us.
Yes.
This time, it's really corrupted. I think it's quite dangerous now. But okay, some people go there and they can go just without any danger. They don't have any situations or issues. But some other people is like, okay, this happened to me, and no, I'm not going back. So you have both of them. You can have it. And about your country, actually, I have a tattoo of a kangaroo here.
Oh wow!
Wow, nice.
Yes, I have a tattoo.
Bridget, why?
Because I love kangaroos. That's why I was like, oh my God, they eat kangaroos.
You need to erase your tattoo.
But
I was like, oh my God, I cannot show you because it's like in here. So, oh my God, it's in here. I don't know if you can see it in here. So.
Oh, yeah, we can. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks delicious.
I'm not lying.
Looks delicious. Maybe potatoes and carrots.
Yes, potatoes and carrots.
Yeah.
I saw
Bridget, have you ever eaten a kangaroo then?
No.
Yeah, it's all brand new for me too, Bridget.
I don't know if I can do that.
Well, when Mark goes back to Australia at some point, he can send us some kangaroo. Yeah, we'll send it to Runabake.
Oh my God! Well, I can try it. I like food. But yes, I actually I was when I was at the university, I had this offer or something to go to Australia, but it was like if I was on the 6th semester, but I was not there. Like I was like on the 3rd semester, so I couldn't do that. So, but I wanted to. I was like, oh my God, I love Serbia, yes. And I felt like the university campus and everything. I was really yes, it was. I like all. It looks really it's all. Well, I don't know if it is all coast, but it looks like you have the beach around and the sky is really blue. So I was like, a lot of trees and really green, and I loved it, and I wanted to go there. But yeah, I think I don't have what question can I ask to you about your country, because you have said a lot of things. Like from the flag to the indigenous people, a lot of things about the country. is it necessary to have a car or something in your country? Like if there are like long distances, or do you have subways?
There's, you know, like it's actually the public transport system in Australia is very, very good. There is a large rail network which connects all the cities. Clearly, you can fly everywhere because it is so large. But within the cities, there are train networks, extensive bus networks. So you don't need a car to get around. The convenience of the car clearly is great because you can just jump into it and don't have to wait for a train to come along or anything like that. So the convenience of the car is great. And if you want to get out to the country areas, then you do need a car to go and see, you know, if you want to go and see some more of the natural beauty of Australia. If you're within the metropolitan areas and want to connect from town to town, it's typically pretty easy.
Okay. So what about, okay, let's see. Like typical food is the typical food? Because okay. you tell me that you eat kangaroo, but is it like the main thing in Australia, like the main food, or?
Funny, I was at a restaurant in Sydney in my last visit, and there was a Dutch couple at the table across from us, and I was actually eating kangaroo, and they asked me what I was eating, and I said, I'm eating kangaroo. Would you like to taste it? And they said, yes. So they tasted the kangaroo. And then when my next plate came out, they asked me what I was eating. Then I said, koala. And they go, koala? No. I don't eat.
You're killing all the things.
We don't eat koala. Koala is quite disgusting. You wouldn't eat it. Like there's a recipe for cooking koala, and that is you boil water, put in a rock, and you keep boiling the water with the rock. You throw the koala in. You keep boiling the water with the koala. Eventually, you take the koala out and you throw it away, and then you eat the rock.
Okay.
Yeah, guys, imagine eating this cute animal.
Yeah. Oh my God, I can't do this. So, that was my next tattoo.
All right. So,
yeah. Maybe you can change the tattoo, Bridget.
Yeah. I'll give you a bit of history. I'll give you the history to the koala. As you can see, they eat gum leaves, which is eucalyptus, and the eucalyptus is actually toxic for most animals. But the koalas have adapted to be able to eat the toxin and live quite healthily off the eucalyptus. And because of the eucalyptus smell, the koalas themselves actually stink, and so does their urine. Their urine is quite acidic. So they look beautiful, but they
stink.
Yeah, they stink, and they're very, very slow because of the toxins in the system. The metabolism are very, very slow, so they move very, very slowly. They're not a very, very fast moving animal. And sadly, there's a cancer that is actually hitting the population. And with the bushfires that went through last summer, it devastated a lot of the regions where the koalas were quite prolific. And it's been said that through the bushfires of last summer, over 1 billion animals were killed. Which is
because the wildfires?
Because of the wildfires. The wildfires in Australia were something like 5 times the size of what went through Brazil and Bolivia last year. So 18 million hectares of land were destroyed.
Wow, so sad.
For animals.
Quick one. What's the significance of Uluru? This place in Australia.
Uluru is a huge rock. It's called Ayers Rock, or Uluru, which is the native name for it. It's a sacred site, and and it was turned into a tourist attraction. The local Aboriginals did not like the idea that the white men were walking over the top of their most sacred site in Australia. And eventually it's been given back to the Aboriginal communities, and you can no longer walk across the top of the rock, which is a good thing. It's an amazing rock. It's huge. It's I can't give you the dimensions, but it is a very, very large rock. It takes a while to walk to the top of it, but it is one huge rock that sits in the middle of a flat land, and no one knows how it got there or how it was where it came from. But it is a major, major big rock. You can pull up a photo if you like.
Yeah. Okay.
It's called Ayers Rock. AYRES.
Yeah, found it. Question mark. Are there any similarities between Ayers Rock, Uluru, and Machu Picchu, for example, in Peru?
Not particularly.
It don't have to be similar, but
okay,
like a cultural kind of.
Yeah, no, there's nothing. As I said, the Aboriginals are nomads, so there's no construction around there. With Aboriginals lived in bark, or they made, I guess, huts, but they were never ever permanent. So they never built anything out of rock, or they built everything out of wood and bark and tree leaves. And eventually, when after a period, they would move camp again and then go and build another community somewhere else. So, as nomads, they lived very, very close to the land and didn't have. But that places like Uluru and other rock formations around the place where you find Aboriginal art are places where they would visit on particular occasions to have their ceremonies. They didn't have gods as such. They believed in, I guess, spirits. So there was the serpent spirit, which is in a lot of ancient mythologies.
Yep.
And they had bird spirits, but they didn't see them as gods. They saw them as almost like themselves. And eventually they would go on to a dream time themselves, and also become a spirit. And it's quite interesting. But yeah, Uluru is huge. As you can see here, those people walking up along the face of it. But.
Excellent, guys. Excellent. All right, thanks, Bob. Okay, Adam, any other questions from yourself?
Yes, for Mark. Mark, I heard in Australia is a land of the spiders. Is really?
In Australia, we have probably the highest amount of poisonous. Everything's poisonous. If it's not going to eat you, it's going to kill you. So, if a movie, if you get to watch it, it's a comedy. It's called Crocodile Dundee.
Oh, yeah, amazing film. I love it.
Yeah, it talks about in Australia, in the Northern Territories, in Queensland, there are saltwater crocodiles which are can be 18 to 24 feet, which is 3 meters up to 4 meters long. For spiders, we have a redback, which likes dark, damp places. So typically in Australia, especially back in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, the redback, as you can just see it there, almost So the redback spider, it bites you, but it doesn't kill you. Our funnel web spiders, which is a Sydney funnel web on the left-hand side, they actually eat mice. They have they build a burrow with a trapdoor, and when something comes along, they open the trapdoor and come out. We go down a bit, down just in the bottom 4, the most painful spiders. Daryl, can you take us down a couple? That's it. So the mouse spider, the huntsman on your right-hand side, down the bottom, is the largest spider that we have. It can grow basically possibly to twice the size of a hand. They're not venomous. They're just creepy. And our snakes are extremely. We have a lot of different types of snakes. Red belly black snakes, brown snakes, vipers.
Whoa.
All of them are toxic and can kill you. We have sharks, major sharks. Lots of shark attacks, crocodiles, you name it. And yeah, so yes, we have a lot of spiders, and the spiders live within the community. So in Sydney, especially, you can find spiders, the Sydney fundamental web, in most backyards.
Marcus, there are people dying from bites.
So from what?
There are people dying from these bites of spiders, snakes.
I think a lot of the spiders, just depending on how old you are and how young you are, most spider bites will make you very, very sick and won't kill you. But if you're a young child and the venom is quite high, it can affect you. And if you're elderly and you have a heart condition and things like that, it can affect you. But mostly a spider bite will mostly make you very, very sick. There is what we call a whiteback spider, that if it bites you, its venom actually dissolves your skin. So
wow.
Yeah, so the venom, so the skin starts to the venom actually destroys the skin, and the skin actually disappears. And that's going to be quite horrific, because they don't know that it takes a lot to actually prevent the venom from destroying the skin. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Terrible. Yeah. Marcus, where is the happiest animal in the world?
Sorry, the what?
What is the happiest animal in the world?
Happiest animal.
Happiest.
It's in Australia, indeed. By the way.
Oh, you're talking about the quokka.
Yeah, quokka.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, the quokkas. Yeah.
Why quokka is the happiest animal in the world?
Because they have the way that they look at you. They've got a smile across the face. It's just the way that they look, and the quokkas. There's an island off Western Australia which is full of them. And they're a funny looking animal, but the quokkas, yes, they're known as the happiest animal in the world. Yeah, very good.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Okay, Mark, I have a question more. Australia has a prime minister, but the prime minister is depend of the Queen of the England.
Yes. So we are a colony. We're actually a part of the Commonwealth. Just like India, Jamaica, and the Canary Islands, the Queen is the head of state, and because of that, each of the Commonwealth countries, even like the UK, has a prime minister. Australia has a prime minister. So we have the way it works. We have the Queen. Below the Queen is what we call a Governor General, and she is the voice of the Queen within Australia. But the Prime Minister does act somewhat independently, and the Prime Minister is actually elected by the party. So whereas in the US or here in Bolivia, you are voting in a particular, you are voting voting for a person. In Australia, we actually vote for a party, and then the party is it might be the Liberal Party, the Labor Party, the Australian Greens, or whoever. So there's which is equivalent to the Mass Party or whoever here. We don't actually elect the leader. The party actually elects their leader. So you might be, so the Prime Minister who is there at any time can be decommissioned by the party, and a new leader is put into power. But that the party itself elects the leader, and the Australian people elect the party.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same across all Commonwealth countries, pretty much. Well, most of them anyway.
Thank you.
Thanks, Arad. All right, Gina, questions from you? Any partnerships between Australia and Peru? Tell us.
Well, I was so sad for the happening to the fires in the affected a lot of vegetation and animal in Australia. How that manage your country? How manage that problem or situation that had?
Sorry, how much or how many?
No,
manage?
How have they managed? Yeah.
Okay. Sadly, the situation hasn't been managed very well. The current government, and this is my personal view. I tend to be my political system, my political beliefs are more socialist than conservative. So I'm a little more progressive, I guess, in my political views. But in Australia right now, we have a conservative government. Sadly, it hasn't done a very good job in regards to climate change. Environment issues and things like that tend not to be well managed by the Australian conservative parties. They're more for the fossil fuel industries, mining industries, and tend to give them more of a voice or more control, if you like. The bushfires, when they went through, there were communities that lost their houses. Schools have been destroyed. You're talking about large areas of land and smaller country communities that have now lost everything they've owned. And since then, they're still waiting for government assistance. They're living within tents. And Australia is known as one of what was once known as the third largest, the third best economy in the world. It's now sitting at around about number 18 in the economies in the world. And unfortunately, they haven't done a very good job of looking after those communities. And right now with COVID, again, the conservative parties haven't done what they should have done through this period. So they did the right thing in giving assistance to the working class through what they call job keeper and job seeker, which is a social security system where they give individuals money to help them live while there's no work or anything going on. But right now, there's talk by the government to actually reduce those and take them away, while at the same time giving tax cuts to the top 1% of the wealthy within Australia, which is stupid. What they should be doing is stimulating the economy from the bottom up rather than from the top down.
Oh, thank you so much for your reply. Thank you.
Definitely. Andrea, over to you, Andrea. You're the creative one in the group. Anything you want to know about the creative talents from Australia?
I have two questions for Mark.
Ask away.
The first question is, did you visit the route of the Che in Santa Cruz?
Sorry, the what?
Did you visit the road of the Che Guevara in Santa Cruz?
Oh, yes, I have. Yes, I certainly have. Many years ago. But yes, Che Guevara, as I said, is a huge hero of mine, and I've been very, very. I've followed his history. I've read his his notes on Bolivia, and I did the Che Trail. So I've been to where he was killed, where he was buried, and yes, I've have a huge history, and also, yeah, yes, I have.
Okay, thank you. And my other question is, in your country exist an instrument called didgeridoo?
Didgeridoo. Yes.
And this instrument, didgeridoo, is played for folklore music in Australia.
Yes, it's a traditional musical instrument played by the Aboriginals around for corroborees and their dance. And it's a long piece of wood of a tree which is hollowed out through the centre at a particular distance, a particular length, to ensure that the harmony that comes from it is at a certain deep tone. If the didgeridoo is too short or too long, you don't get the tone. So it needs to be a certain length. And the hole through the center of the didgeridoo needs to be a certain diameter to ensure that the vibration that is carried through is amplified at the right pitch when it comes out the other end.
Oh, thank you. And it's true that in the jazz music introduced this instrument?
Yes, it's the didgeridoo has become quite popular through a lot of bands now. There's if you listen to a lot of contemporary music, you can often hear the didgeridoo is being played in the background.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, great question, Andrea. So let's have just in case no one knows yet what didgeridoo is, let's have a look. Let's have a look what it looks like.
It's a psychedelic sound.
As you can see from the way that, yeah, so what he does, he puts his mouth over the top of the entry of the didgeridoo, and all those sounds are made within his mouth as he's breathing in and out and puffing his cheeks out. And as those sounds go through the didgeridoo, they are amplified through the distance, so it comes out as that tone, a very deep. But all those sounds are made within the mouth of the player.
Wow, it's interesting.
Interesting instrument. Interesting.
Psychedelic sounds, yeah.
Okay, Ximena, over to you. Any questions for Mark? Hello, Pando Cobica. Oh, Rosario, anything you want to know from Mark about his life in Bolivia, Australia?
Yes, Mark, I want to know how is the wedding in Australia?
The weather?
Yeah. Is there something different?
No, well, the weather is, we're on the southern hemisphere, so our summers and our winters all align with the same as Bolivia.
No, sorry, wedding.
Can you hear me?
Weddings, Mark.
Wedding.
Oh, weddings.
Yes, yes.
I thought you said, so, okay, weddings. It's traditional weddings are, again, I haven't been to a Bolivian wedding. So it's hard for me to, the weddings that I know of here in Bolivia are very, very big. There's a, like, I know that it's a whole day. Well, in Australia, the traditional wedding is done in a church, which is the same as what you do here. And there is a wedding party at the end of it, where the bride and the groom get to dance to each other. So I guess the tradition is pretty much the same. Yeah, I don't know. There is a change in Australia right now. There is a major change in the way weddings are handled. We have what we call a marriage celebrant, which is someone who is licensed from the government, who can do weddings outside of a church. Typically, weddings in Australia were done within churches. Right now, religious belief is not as popular as what it once was. People are moving away from religion and probably going more towards what is a pagan or a legal wedding. So you have a marriage celebrant, you do your vows, but it's not a religious ceremony as it once was. So there is a shift from the religious type weddings more towards a legal binding wedding, which is done still as a ceremony, but without a priest and without the church.
Okay, thank you very much.
I think what Rosario is really asking, Mark, here in Bolivia, I think the weddings go until 10 in the morning.
Oh, okay.
The same in Australia, yeah.
No, nothing like that. No. By 1 o'clock, by 1 o'clock in the morning, usually the bride and groom have gone off to their bridal suite to do what they want to do, and the party finishes. But no, and usually then if the guests can continue and drink on if they wish to, and I'm sure there are some wedding parties that continue a lot further than 10 o'clock in the following morning, that's for sure. Yes.
Definitely. Oh, yes, Martin, over to you. What you want to say?
Yeah. Thank you, Dario. Mark, as you said in the beginning of your introduction, we have different cultures. Mm-hmm. Australia is totally different from South America.
Yep.
I'd like to know about street crime and the traffic jams in Australia.
Okay. Street crime. There are crime in Australia is possibly it's nothing like the US. The US is quite dangerous. There are places here in El Alto which are very, very dangerous. In Australia, there are locations that are dangerous, but there's certainly not many of them. There are street gangs in certain regions within Melbourne and Sydney, and I'm sure within Brisbane, but they aren't. The violence in Australia is actually quite minimal. But if you were to listen to the media within Australia, it's actually they exaggerate it because it sells newspapers. Traffic jams. Yes, during peak periods, we have highways which are about 6 lanes. So 6 car widths across, all going into one location, like the inner city areas. And you can wait for, up to an hour to try in slow moving traffic to make your way through into the cities. The places like Melbourne are doing a huge job in building underground tunnel networks, new train networks, and putting taxes on cars that are coming into the city to reduce the cost of traffic infrastructure. It's much easier to move people via train than it is with one person per one car coming into a city than trying to find a car park for them. So places like Melbourne are doing an incredible job right now to reduce the car traffic and the need for having a car within the city. Sydney, on the other hand, is Australia's oldest city. It's probably its poorest design, has smaller road networks, so traffic within Sydney is a nightmare. You can be waiting sometimes in bad conditions. If there's a car accident on one of the major roads, it can actually stop traffic for up to 2 hours until they can clear the traffic, clear the accident, and then people can move on to getting to work. So yeah, no different to any other. Yeah.
Yes, interesting. I'm intrigued, Marcus. What are the meter maids?
Just hold on. My battery is about to go flat. I'm going to plug my computer in. Just hold on. 1 moment.
Okay. Hey, Daryl.
Yes.
I got a question. I don't know if you can share this meter maids in Australia.
Middle maids.
Yeah.
Okay, let's have a look.
Meter maids. Okay, Mark,
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I was saying I'm intrigued. I don't know what are the meter maids.
Oh, meter maids. All right.
Yeah.
They're not, well, during the 70s, 80s, and 90s in Queensland, there's a coastal town or a coastal location called the Gold Coast. It's very much like Miami in Florida. So they used to have meter maids that were dressed up in bikinis, high heel shoes, and they would be the ones that went around to collect the parking fees. And they were known as
Wow.
All right, I found them. Meter
There are
maids. Okay.
hot girls.
Really?
meter maids, yes. Yeah.
Okay. And I guess I wonder you in Australia there are 10,000 bitches.
10,000 bitches or beaches?
Beaches.
Players. Language, guys. Players.
Yeah. Yes. Australia is. It's some of the largest shorelines are in Australia. There's one particular beach that is 180 kilometres long.
Wow.
So you could walk the whole beach for 180 kilometres.
Wow.
Yeah, so without finding any rocks or anything to get across. So yeah, Australia has some of the best surfing in the world. Bells Beach in Victoria is known at a particular period for some of the largest waves within the world.
Wow. In conclusion, there are a lot of beautiful girls in Australia.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Brian, over to you. Anything for Mark before we close?
Coming back to the food animals, some days ago, I watched a video when someone eats a spider or tarantula?
The huntsman.
Yeah. Do you eat? Did you eat a spider or tarantula?
No, there is. I don't know of a spider delicacy in Australia, and if they were eating spiders, it might be. There's a new thing at the moment where a lot of the gastronomy schools are coming up with new recipes to include insects. And I don't think this is actually particularly aimed at anyone in Australia. It's more of a global thing where insects are high in protein and they're easy to harvest. Yeah, but I don't know that you won't find me eating a spider anytime soon, that's for sure.
How tastes the insect?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Felix, any questions for Mark? Felix. Senor Anderson. Okay, we'll come back to Felix. Ximena, anything from yourself? Anything you want to know about Australia? Felix,
now I'm
yes.
here.
Okay.
Yeah, my phone is really slow at the moment, so I'm sorry if it takes a while. But yeah, I have a question about the political situation in Australia. What is the governing party and the opposition, and what do they stand for? I know that traditionally the petroleum and mining industry are major lobbies in the Australian politics. And you mentioned that you are more to the socialistic side than the right wing. So how do you see the political future of Australia?
Okay, just a correction. I would call myself a social democrat or social libertarian, and we sit to the set. We are on the left of the pendulum. The people on the right are more like the conservatives, like Trump or the party that's in right now are conservative. So they sit on the right side of the pendulum. In Australia, politics is heavily influenced by media, as is the UK and the US. Rupert Murdoch, who is an Australian himself, controls a large body of the Australian media, both print and TV, and so his political influence is quite strong. In Australia, we have what is known as Sky News, which is an equivalent to Fox News within the US. So, as we know, Rupert Murdoch is is quite conservative in his views, and thus the propaganda that he shares is always biased to the right. Right now, we have the Liberal Party, which is it's a weird name. That the fact that they call themselves the Liberal Party, which would suggest that they should sit on the left-hand side of the pendulum, they are actually quite conservative. Their views, not so, as I said earlier, they're not pro the environment. Tend to have very poor policies in regards to climate. Their policies favour mining, extraction of fossil fuels, and indeed coal. In fact, the coal lobby and the fossil fuel companies actually back the Australian Liberal Party with millions of dollars each year and help their campaigns.
Yeah, as is to be expected, right?
Yeah. So sadly, because of this, and it's the same as what happens in the UK, and the same as what happening in the US. Our political system is what I would call corporatism, where companies have greater influence on the outcomes of elections than what the politics actually do. or the people of the country. It's probably one of the reasons why I left Australia, is I could see that it's running down the same way as the US. My personal view is that democracy we live in Australia, and I would say the US, we live in the illusion of democracy, where we think we have the power to vote for who we're actually voting for. But the information we are given is actually given by somebody else. Someone else decides what the headline of the day will be. Someone else decides what is leading on the news. And all of this has huge influence on the way we think about our politics and our politicians. And at the end of the day, we think that we're freely casting a vote for the right person to represent us in Parliament. But the actual fact is we're only casting the vote on the information that has been handed to us by somebody else.
Yeah, so your view of the future is quite bleak for the Western.
No, I would say that right now what we are seeing is that I think there's going to be a change, a major change, but it won't come through it's going to come through from the youth, the likes of the Greta Thunbergs of the world, who understand and see the world in completely different eyes to what their parents do. They understand that they've watched their parents work and put their asses off to the day they die, and die with nothing, and they don't want that future for themselves. They see the likes of Rupert Murdoch. They see that the greed of the baby boomers is not sustainable. We live on a finite planet. It's not infinite. We act as if it is infinite. We keep extracting fossil fuels and expecting that we're going to get endless profits from this, and it doesn't. It's impossible.
Yeah,
I see a much brighter future than ahead of us. But I don't mean to sound bleak. I am.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm anything but.
Yeah, well, I believe that a lot of the technological inventions that are coming forth now, like graphene and stuff like that, is going to help relieve the burden on the planet as well, even if the population keeps growing.
Absolutely.
So, I believe that we are going to a brighter future as well. But regarding to democracy, I'm not sure. But
I think democracy is. I fear for democracy.
I share your fear.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your answer.
You're welcome.
All right. Before we finish up, guys, we just seen something from Visit Australia, a video which I'd like to share, and maybe Mark could explain a few things or a few places. It's only a minute long. Okay, here we go. Visit Australia. Okay, Mark, from the video, what's your favorite place or you've been to?
The Daintree is where I said earlier was the oldest rainforest in the world.
Yeah.
And just off that is the Great Barrier Reef. And I've spent a lot of time sailing around the Great Barrier Reef, around Harvey Bay, where the whales were. So I have several favourite places, mostly to do with sailing. I love sailing around Sydney and the northern parts of Queensland around the Daintree Forest were my two favourite locations. We've lost you.
Sorry, before we finish, thank you, Mark. Before we finish off, let's just go around the table and see if anyone's got any last thoughts, questions. All right, Martin, let's start with you. Anything
I got a question. My last question for Mark. Excuse me, Mark. I forgot to ask you before. How are you now? I mean, you can walk after your accident in Bolivia.
Oh yes, I can walk. My legs and my left arm is fine. My legs.
Oh, okay.
Walk, but my right arm, sadly, it's I can't. I have to move it around, unfortunately. My right arm is semi-paralyzed. Yeah.
Okay, it's good to hear you, because maybe in the future, in your schedule, in your future plan, you may want to visit, to come back to Bolivia or South America.
Yeah, I think my plan now is to go back to Australia and possibly rebuild my finances. I have a plan to build a eco community in Costa Rica. So Costa Rica might be my next place. I will retain the cafe here in La Paz. So it will continue. It will continue just without me.
Okay. And you have a social network, and we can follow you and
Absolutely.
Facebook, Twitter.
Absolutely. Daryl can easily share my my details of my Facebook page. It's Mark Andrew Simons, but if you wanted to, Daryl should have your email addresses.
Oh,
Daryl, if Daryl wants to share my Facebook page, my Facebook profile page, absolutely, follow me for sure.
Okay, thank you, Mark. And my last question: there's a typical slang for how flirt a girl. There are typical slang. Do you flirt a girl, for example? I
don't know that there's a slang word. We have a lot of slang. Australian slang is like, and it's like, how you going? What's up, mate? Things like that. But you know, it's not. Yeah, I don't know of I don't know of the slang word for picking up a chick.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that, as you can see, Marcus is a big fan of Donald Trump. So,
yeah, why?
So
Donald Trump is COVID.
So
you are Mark. You are pro Trump or pro Biden?
Clearly not. The Simpsons episode where he died, I'm hoping that the Simpsons haven't let us down yet, but let's hope that there's some you know, that they get this one right. Otherwise, I'll lose all faith in the Simpsons.
Yeah, all right. There's a Marcus's Facebook pages, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Daryl.
No problem.
By the way, Donald Trump will be good in a few days, Mark.
You reckon? I reckon he's pulling. I reckon he's lying. I reckon he just doesn't want to go back and fuck up another debate.
Yeah, that's true. You never know with these guys, man. You never know. Okay.
Yeah, thank you,
thanks,
Mark.
Martin.
You're nice. Thank you.
Adam, any questions from you, my friend? Any last thoughts? Your friend Marcus will be going back to Australia. Do you want to do the death row together? Tell us.
Yes. This is my friend, my old friend. Okay. I know. I meet Marcus when I was working in Gravity. Gravity. He is a leader of the group. He was a guide, the older guide. I remember the T-shirt has in the back a 69. I don't know why, but it's I remember that. You remember?
What was it?
I remember when you was guide when you were was guide in your T-shirt in your back has 69.
66.
66. Sorry, 66.
Yeah. Where's your
Why?
mind?
Okay. Okay.
66.
Okay.
Yes.
66. Yes. Okay. But I never ask you how is you impressed about Bolivia, how you feel in Bolivia, and maybe if you finish your business in Australia after Costa Rica, you will come back to Bolivia.
Okay. So Bolivia has been amazing for me. It's been an amazing experience. I walk away with so many fond memories of Bolivia. When I first arrived in La Paz, I thought it was an interesting city, but I never thought I would fall in love with Bolivia, with La Paz as much as I have. It's a city that you get to understand and get to know, and it reveals itself very, very slowly. Bolivia, for me, is one of the richest cultures in the world. Its landscapes are extremely dynamic. You have the highest, wettest, coldest, saltiest landscapes in the world. You have the mountains, the wettest wetlands, the jungles, and the people here. You know, to understand your culture is to understand Bolivia. It is extremely rich and colorful and beautiful. My time here, I've been humbled by Bolivia. I've seen its hardships. I almost lost my life in a motorcycle accident, and yet I couldn't wait to get back and come back to what I call home. So it is sad for me to leave, but sadly I think I need to. For me personally, I don't have a network of people around me like you do as a family. My family is back in Australia, and I need to go back and re-establish myself so I can do something like this again. But Bolivia has afforded me an amazing experience for the last 8 to 9 years. I have. It is a memory that I will treasure for a long time. So yes, I love it.
Okay, Marcus. I'm glad to see you again. Yeah, it's a nice for me. But you are one of the most best friends in the Gravity. You remember, but you okay. Okay, thanks, Marcus.
Thank you very much, my friend.
Yes, thank you.
Great memories, Adam. Great memories. Okay, Brian, anything from me? Any last thoughts, questions?
No, I have no question, but thanks a lot for tell us your life and your custom from your country, Mark. Thanks a
You're
lot.
welcome, Brian. You're welcome.
Thank you, Brian. Andrea, anything? And Andrea, would you like to swap United Kingdom for Australia? Would you and your boyfriend like to emigrate to Australia? Oh no, it's too far. It's too far.
No, it's about his country.
Mm-hmm.
What is the famous artistic or artistic artista plástico of your country? Or do you understand me?
No, I'm sorry, I don't.
Oh.
Okay, Andrea, tell us, give us an example of a person.
For example, here the famous artist is
Mamani.
Cecilio Guzmán de Rojas.
Okay.
And in your country, what is the name of famous artist?
Craftsman.
Sorry, can you repeat me, please?
Craftsman.
Craftsman.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on the context though. So I'll write it to the group. Yeah, so Mark, who are the famous Australian artists?
Okay, well, if you
like
look
painting, sculpture-wise, just
okay. Pro Art is an Australian famous Australian artist. He's probably in the same genre as Namani Mamani. There is who else? It's an area that I have forgotten so much about. I'm sorry, but Pro Art would be my favorite painter or painting artist. As far as sculpture is concerned, I'm unsure. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's the best I can give you. Pro Art.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
okay. Thanks, Andrea. Rosario, anything from yourself?
Yes, Mark. When you were here in La Paz, Bolivia, did you dance or music or folklore or music here in La Paz? What do you feel? Are you happy?
Rosario, he's still in La Paz. So before he goes to Australia, maybe you can teach him how to dance caporales, tinku, I don't know, morenada, saya.
I've never, I'll be honest, I've never danced to traditional Bolivian dance, so I can't I can't say that I've had. I have danced in many a nightclub in Bolivia.
Really?
Good, Mark. Good.
I don't believe it.
Me too. Our music is very happy.
Rosario, question then. What Bolivian folkloric dance would you recommend for Marcus?
We have every kind
Cuenca, timpu, something easy, like something.
Diablada, caporales, tinku. All our music is happy, very happy.
Okay.
Excellent. All right. Good.
Thank you very much, Mark.
You're welcome.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Hey, Ximena, okay. Ximena, anything from you? Any last thoughts, questions? Ximena.
Any questions?
Okay, no question. All right, thanks, Ximena. Felix, anything from you, my friend?
Nah, not really. I think that I have covered quite a lot of mistakes today in the chat, and I hope that everyone's happy. It's been a pleasure to hearing Mark sharing his story with us as well. It's always nice to hear when people love the country that they are living in. Unfortunately, he's leaving and maybe heading off to Costa Rica, if I got the story correctly, in the future. But I appreciate you taking your time and sharing it with us here this afternoon.
Okay.
And also Bridget, I would like to thank, but she's not here, so that will have to wait for another time. So I wish everyone a good week and hope to see you again next Saturday.
Yeah, thanks, Felix. Mark, thank you. Literally, I needed an Australian voice, and all my Australian friends here back in Australia, they're looking at the time. No, I can't make it. No, it's too early, it's too late. I'll still be dreaming of Genie. But I just wanted the guys here to experience a different accent, an Australian accent. And I think it's been beneficial to the guys here who've joined us on Zoom, and the guys are listening as well. And we're gonna send the recording to the group as well. Mark, thank you very much, and good luck in your future endeavors. I'm sure Adam wants you back in Bolivia in a few years' time. I'm sure you, because as you've told us, Mark, you still have an interest in your cafe in the high ground. I'm sure you'll come for a couple of weeks or two to make sure things are running smoothly. Yeah, I'm sure you can meet up with the guys and stuff. Yeah, definitely. And yeah, from the bottom of my heart, Mark, thank you. It was very last minute, but you've been one of the best guests we've had in the Conversation Club today. Okay. Thank you very much, Marcus. And I'm sure the guys here have enjoyed every single day, because like the guys you know about the United Kingdom, they know about United States, because South America is so US centric, but somewhere where like Australia, like just explaining briefly, I'm sure the guys have learned a thing or two, and they've enjoyed it.
Yeah, Mark was the best guest.
There you go, Marcus. There you go. I know what's going on here. The guys want discount share in the higher ground. All right. Okay. The Higher Ground Cafe, Cayetaria in La Paz. You can find them on Pedidos Ya, Patch Service, all the delivery options, and you can physically go into the restaurant. In the Zona Turistica here in La Paz, Cayetaria, Higher Ground. You'll miss it, guys. And if you mention the Conversation Club, I'm sure you can get a discount, guys.
Yeah. And we've got a lot of Australian dishes within the cafe.
Exactly.
So you can come across and try an Aussie burger, an Australian burger.
So, Mark, before we close the session, can you briefly describe what an Australian burger is like, an Aussie burger for the guys?
Well, it comes with great Bolivian meat. A local bread and bacon, pineapple, beetroot, as great cheese, lettuce, tomato, and tomato, barbecue, and mayonnaise salsas. It's big.
There you go.
Oh, sounds delicious.
And Marcus, so we've got an Australian burger here. What can you wash down an Australian burger with? What Australian cocktails or drinks have you got?
We've got we have our own espresso martini, which is incredible. But all of our products are Bolivian. Where we can, everything we do is made with Bolivian ingredients. So we all have all the Bolivian beers, your artisan beers, and we don't have any Australian. The Bolivian beers are just too good.
Okay.
Right, so Higher Ground Cafe, Cayetaria here in La Paz on the Centric Road. It's by Plaza San Francisco. From there, you can miss it. Calle Murillo and Tarija. Higher Ground Cafe, guys. And Mark.
Okay.
And as well, guys, I forgot. Marcus has got a very good book selection. So in the High Ground Cafe, if you can bring... it's gone. Well, okay. Unlucky, guys. I was going to say...
Today was sold. Today, everything was sold.
Okay. Unfortunately, guys. Oh, no. My bad. I should have told you about this before.
Yes.
Okay. All right, guys. Marcus, I'll see you later, my friend. Thank you for joining us and sharing your life, your experiences with the group.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Daryl.
And guys, here until Thursday. If anyone wants to come into the cafe, I'll happily have a chat and drink with you.
Oh, there you go, guys. So Marcus, he's here till Thursday. So Thursday is his last day, then he's flying back to Australia. So if you want, go to the High Ground Cafe, have a chat with him. Physically, you can speak to Mark, Martin, Adam, yeah, man, come on, before he goes here, you should go to the High Ground, Rosario, Brian, Andrea, Martin, go to the High Ground Cafe, have a coffee, have a cocktail, just like find out, just have some escape quarantine. I've had enough of quarantine, actually, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe
Hey guys, especially for Bolivian guys, do you know what is? Do you know?
No, I don't. Tell us,
No.
Marcus.
It's a kangaroo?
No, it's a llama.
No.
It's a llama. Llama me.
Okay.
Oh, so bad. So bad.
69 llama.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, guys. So we've got till Thursday to have a chat with Marcus physically in the Higher Ground Cafe. If you come, you might see me there. So you might physically meet the man himself, Daryl. Felix might be there as well. So yeah.
Okay.
Although we're trying to make Felix a mystery, so Felix won't be there definitely for now.
All right.
Okay, are we all invited for free? Thank you, Daryl. You're the best. Yeah, thank you. Bravo, Daryl.
Yes, I'll invite you to a water cocktail. I'll invite, if you come, I'll invite you to a drink, to a beer, to a coffee, if you don't drink. Okay.
You take note of the recipe of hamburger of Mark?
Yeah, but you can go physically ask him. You can come and ask him.
Yeah, I want that hamburger.
Okay.
Big hamburger.
It'll be ready for you. All right, guys.
Thank you, Daryl.
All right, goodbye. All right.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark.
Right.
Good
Hopefully
luck.
see you guys here physically in the next few days. To wish Mark all the best in the world and all the success he deserves. All right, guys. We'll see you next next Saturday.
Yes. See you next Saturday, everyone. Have a
See you
good
next
week
Saturday.
and take care.
And take care, everyone, guys. Goodbye.
Yes, take it to Daryl.
Bye, guys.
Bye.